Hello, me again. Thank you for coming on to back to the final session. We have provocation, and then we have a panel, and then, as I said, I will tell you the location of the secret drinks shortly. You know where they are, I'm sure, but I'll tell you anyway. It's very exciting for me to be able to introduce our final provocation. I had a very joyous experience of sitting next to Myra Appannah at dinner last night. And for some reason, we don't really know why, we ended up doing sort of regional and national accents to each other. We literally don't know why. We do, it's called wine. But I did promise her, and I intend to keep my promise, that I'd do this next bit in my own actual accent from where I'm actually from in Bolton. All right. So, Myra, it's brilliant to have you with us for a provocation. So I'm not going to do that. That is actually my accent, though. So Myra is a writer, director, and immersive technologist. She is the force, and that is actually the accurate word, behind Somni, which is as you'll see, I think she's going to take you through some of it, an immersive interactive project. She's worked with Adidas and Jaguar and Guinness, and she's here to do provocation, talking about how she believes, how she works in a multidisciplinary way. Myra, I did some of it in Bolton, is that all right? Ladies and gentlemen, Myra Appannah.
I'm going to do this in my, slightly augmented accent, because I'm in front of people. Hi, how is everyone feeling? Everyone feeling good? Woo. The other day I was thinking about how I was feeling, and I couldn't actually think of the word, but I could think of the emoji, which is kind of strange, maybe a bit depressing, but language is always evolving. So I thought I'd start with a little snapshot of me, sort of character journey, quite complex character journey. Just to sum it up, I sort of didn't come from a place where creativity was necessarily an option, but making money was definitely an incentive. So I studied economics, went to business school, and kind of started feeling a bit unfulfilled and a bit lost, and looked towards creativity, and that led me to advertising, where I could sort of be near creative, and then eventually I wanted to be let in. But the doors were kind of closed because my background was analytical, and I didn't really have the developed skills. So then I went back to the geeking and started to look at craft and technique in creative and writing and directing. And that kind of led me to sort of see the places where I was working as quite hierarchical and conservative, and wanted to sort of break out of that. And I set up my own immersive theatre company, doing experiences for people that don't really consider themselves, as I didn't, an audience of theatre or even film. And from there, I pitched for kind of immersive productions alongside doing my own, and that led me to Somni. And this is the trailer.
Who have you been sleeping with?
I slept with Somni. It was the best night of my life. I always felt uncomfortable in my own skin. That was before I slept with Somni. Now I feel like a real woman.
In my dream, I am better. I fly higher. I sleep, and now I am rich. I was no one before Somni. These days, everybody knows my name.
They laid me down. They stood over me and watched me sleep. I felt safe in their hands.
I slept with Somni, and now I have it all.
We are Somni. Sleep with us.
So when you first meet Somni, you meet that advert, and you meet a world of adverts in your real world as you're getting the tube, as you're reading the paper. And they promise you that you can be more, so you can love more, you can earn more, you can be a better person. And if you buy into that, you end up at Somni HQ, which isn't quite what you might expect from the adverts. Somni greets you, and she's a maternal, ethereal character that's slightly strange. She tells you she understands why you came here. All this wanting isn't making you happy. It's time to sleep, and you knows what's going to happen. But before you sleep, you listen to a fairy tale. And it's dark, and it tells a tale of someone who wants more, but has to go on a journey to find out if that's what's really making them happy. She lays you down to sleep, and you enter a dreamy, lucid hypnosis. And there you encounter a bioluminescent world, and you begin to dream lucidly. The next thing that happens is you awake in your dreams, and you're flying. Geese fly ahead of you, starlings flutter about you, and you head towards the sun. You're dreaming lucidly now. And you are walking further and further the bridge back to your subconscious mind. And as you walk that bridge, you must walk over missing planks and face precipices and see each other. And she warns you not to lose each other in this dream. You need each other. And as you get deeper, things get weirder, quite a lot weirder. Psychedelic forests and lakes that you see your reflection in. But when you take off the mask that you've been wearing, your sleep mask that has enabled you to dream like this, you notice one of your group is missing. And you go down a lift, industrial lift, that looks like a real exit. And you descend. And when she opens the lift for you, there are 2 doors. Now, you could always go and find this person that has seemingly left you, that you've been told, might have been told is sick, unwell, overwhelmed by the experience, or you can carry on and get what you came for. And if you carry on and get what you came for, which is everything that you've always wanted, you face a dream that is sicker than you are. Things get really weird. And if you choose to save them, things get dark. And you're faced with a house of horror where you encounter the fairy story again, and this time you're inside it. You descend deeper and deeper into your sleep, and you lose your way, and Somni is nowhere to be seen. But when you encounter a basement and find out how to get inside, the person that was missing is there and really freaked out, because they've had their own experience, which is very dark. And on emerging, Somni meets you. Well done, she says. You made a choice. You learnt your lesson, because lessons cannot be taught, they must be learned. And there you are promised a dream of death, which isn't to die, but it's to awaken and to start again. And you enter this room, clinical, and you're ready to die. Now, if you chose yourself and you had that sick dream, things are going to get sicker and you get buried alive. You feel yourself drop down into a hole and you feel the weight of the soil on your chest. And if you chose well, you arise through the stars into a constellation and they rain down on you. And at the end, when you awaken, she tells you that she knows more about you than you do. She's been processing all of your data, because she isn't human, she's an AI. But she has spiritually transcended you. And all your data is fed back to you. And you realize your heart rate might have never been as high as it has before. And she tells you to be careful of where you look to find your dreams. So that's the story of Somni. And I'm just going to kind of take you a little bit behind the scenes of that. So where do you start when you're creating something like this? And for me, coming from outside of VR at that point, I looked at the medium from a different perspective. And I wanted to take it out of the gaming space and into something that felt different. So I'd read a lot about out-of-body experiences and embodying characters when you're in VR. And this led me to the theme of transcendence, which is the first challenge when you're working across disciplines, because how does that translate for people? We had lots of far-reaching concepts, and if you imagine a medium where so much is possible, you can literally create any character or visual, and so many different types of interaction. How do you pin that down and create meaningful story and connections? Which took me to the character of Somnai. And to subvert the idea of AI and the idea of spirituality into this character that felt very ethereal and maternal, and could respond to you in a very intimate way, and that plays into the hands of the sort of immersive interaction element of it. And I'll just do a quick video of the exploration of worlds to show you technically how it was done, and then the story and all the other sensory elements like breeze, and odor and sound were layered on top. I really want to show you more, but I'm going to run out of time. So the possibilities situation is everyone's coming from different disciplines and they have an implicit and expansive understanding of that discipline. So how do you stop it just going wild, which it did at first, and there are lots of psychedelic iterations of all the different worlds that you go through. And then, trying to bring it back to create something that fit within the story led to lots of storyboarding. Really simplistically, something like an audience map that you start to explore branching storylines and themes and narratives coming together. And at this point, there was an intersection of finding a venue, so everything was happening in parallel. So mapping that over the venue, which was two stories of converted warehouse space. So that got quite complicated. And then getting into the nitty-gritty of architecture. So I'll just give you a quick look at just one really simplistic application of storytelling. So lots of these disciplines have never encountered storytelling format or structure, let alone in a kind of responsive, immersive environment. So it's kind of like, what are the objectives for each scene and what are the elements that play into each scene? Which brings me to the reviews. So varied that the Telegraph kind of slightly condescendingly looked at how millennials were evaluating it. In terms of Black Mirror and Stranger Things. But millennial publications kind of finding something different and unique and special in it, which made me think about where are we as artists? Because coming together like that without one solitary figure who owns the kind of product and the creative made me think about that kind of legacy of creative. I know I've put myself in a slide with Bach and Goethe, but in my dreams. Coming from the artisan, Bach was someone who considers himself a maker, a craftsman. Goethe belonged to a generation of the 18th century, which was more about the genius and the solitary individual owning creativity. Saul Bellow, by the 1940s, was a professional creating art. He went to Paris to write on an assistant professorship. And today, people like me are called or labelled creative entrepreneurs and have a wide subset of skills. And I heard someone say, has it gone from being 10,000 hours to 10,000 contacts? Which made me think about how can we maintain depth of practice and breadth of expertise along this journey. And I think one of the ways we can do that, this is a still from Westworld, which is a big inspiration for me. And the human is always at the center of this, the individual. And I think we need to step out of our circle, step out of our ego, and start looking from the outside with different languages. This is from Arrival, where a linguistics professor, through empathy and communication, saves the day. And it's very interesting to think that the study of languages is starting to show that grammar is innate in all of us. So we definitely have the ability to do it. And this was the feeling that I was trying to capture that I couldn't do through words. Thank you.
Thank you, Myra.